This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome again to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. My name is Ron Stutz. Always a pleasure for me to hang out with Logan for a while, and we're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement, as we always do. And Logan, it's great to be back with you.
Yeah, Ron, great to be here for another show. And as I say all the time, one of my favorite days of the week here to spend an hour and talk about some financials.
Absolutely. Let me put your contact number out there first, and then we'll get head on into this conversation here. 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. But if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that the easy way to remember that number is by using the word PLAN, which is so essential for all of us. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler, of course, works with 3 different generations of client families at Regary. Many of those clients have been with the firm for more than a quarter of a century, and hey, maybe you might want to check it out yourself. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to get in touch. A new record has been set for the most money ever paid for a pair of sandals, Logan. I don't know if you wear
That's interesting.
Sandals.
Not aware of that.
I don't wear sandals myself, but, a lot of people, they find them pretty popular.
Yeah, I do wear them, but I'm assuming the one we're going to hear right now is probably more expensive than the ones I wear.
Probably. Somebody just paid $218,000 at a recent auction for a well-used pair of brown suede Birkenstocks, and you might be asking, why would somebody pay that much for...
They got to belong to somebody, right?
Yeah. They belong to Steve Jobs.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes a little more sense, but even so, man, it's a lot of money for some, that's kind of, like you were saying, some BW used flip-flops there. But, yeah, that's interesting. It always amazes me what memorabilia goes for, because I know me and you are both big sports fans, so I mean, like the Kobe collections or the Michael Jordan stuff, or any of the musician stuff as well. I mean, it's just crazy what that stuff goes for. And $218,000 for some used sandals, and someone feels like they got a deal out of it, I'm sure.
I don't know if I'd want to have Steve Jobs, old sandals, but, only if they're worth something, I guess, to somebody else.
A lot of people, they look at that as an investment, though. Some of them have a little collection of stuff like that, but not necessarily up my aisle, but hey, that's awesome.
Well, I saw somebody out the other day selling Logan Sadler T-shirts, so,
Probably a little cheaper than $218,000, I hope, right? I'll tell the team to keep the prices low.
I think probably so. Hey, let's talk about financial planning, as we always do, but let's talk about financial planning at Disneyland. And maybe we can learn a few things about financial planning from some of the rides at Disneyland. Or, if you're on the East Coast, I guess you would go to Disney World. But what about Space Mountain? Have you ever been on Space Mountain?
I have, yeah. I've spent not a whole lot of time at either of the 2 parks, but I definitely have been to them. And it's, for those of you that don't know, Space Mountain's one of the more well-known roller coasters. And I think why it's so well-known is you spend a good portion of the ride in the dark. And so for those of you that know me personally, roller coasters are not my favorite thing, especially when I can't see what's coming, right? So that's a lot of the excitement behind Space Mountain is that added thrill of the dark and the added danger of not being able to see or not knowing what exactly you should be expecting next. And so, when I relate that into retirement planning, Ron, when I think of what you don't want in retirement, I would say you probably don't want an income plan that's like Space Mountain, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to know what is coming, what type of certainty you have, and you want to know if you're in danger of, running out of money or those incomes not coming in the next month. So it's something where you don't want to have that type of thrill on your income plan, and your income plan should allow you to see where your paychecks are coming from as well as where they're going to come from in the future instead of just kind of getting tossed around on that Space Mountain roller coaster. And also, I think I've seen it time and time again where a lot of people out there kind of hope their income plan into an existence. And what I mean by that is I've seen some people that are just hoping for really good market returns to help produce their income, right? Which does really well when they're hoping into existence and the market does well. But when the market doesn't do so well, it definitely affects the income plan, or things like dividends, hoping dividend stocks don't get cut, or dividends don't get cut on those stocks to hopefully they don't reduce your income. For CD rates, right? You're depending on CD rates for what type of income's coming. So you don't want that type of comfortability. I'm sorry, you don't want that type of uncomfortability when it comes to your retirement plan. You want to make sure your income plan is really laid out, it's drawn up, and you have something that you know is predictable and is going to allow you to spend with confidence and know exactly what's coming.
You know, I got a little bit off the track story here for you, but I was talking to somebody about Disney World, in fact, at one time, and he said he was there, and he went on the Space Mountain ride, and for some reason, something wasn't working. And, you know, you were talking about how the big attraction there at this particular ride is, you know, it's dark and you can't see what's coming and it's really kind of magical, you know, the way they have it. But that particular day, the lights came on. In the middle of the ride, and you could see, like, everything. You could see the janitor's buckets in the corner.
Really?
All this kind of stuff.
It wasn't as pretty as they thought, right?
Yeah, it's kind of destroyed the whole illusion. But
yeah, sometimes things are better with the lights off, right? But but not your income plan.
no, I don't think so. Well, hey, you know, Dumbo the Flying Elephant is an attraction that's been around forever, and I was just wondering if you might be, you're so good at this, I was wondering if you might draw some kind of correlation between Dumbo the Flying Elephant and financial planning.
Yeah, when I think of Dumbo, you know, the flying elephant, it is crazy to think, but don't quote me on this, but I think it's been essentially the same since the early 70s.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for a lot of us, that might seem very unimpressive, but when you walk by those old classics, it really gets a kick, right? I mean, a lot of people it still is a fan favorite of people that go there, whether it's small children or even some adults. Let's not lie, right? It might be one of our favorite rides. So it's something, to me, what that shows is, again, it's been the same since 1970s in that range. And what I think about with that is, with the Dumbo translating to the investment world, is a lot of people have been very successful without ever really doing anything that most of the people would consider exciting, right? The old classic principles that are just kind of, again, not very exciting. It doesn't really excite many people, but typically living off less money than you make, dollar cost averaging into the market over a long period of time, and really, you know, staying the course with what your investment values are. It is amazing sometimes to what that could add up to over a long period of time. And of course, depending on how it's invested and all that stuff. But just really looking at those core values of just kind of maybe being very passive and understanding your risk tolerance and investing into things that you are very confident in over a very long-term period of time. Again, it's not the most exciting. It's not like cryptocurrency or hedge funds or structured notes or any of those things, but a lot of the times that is a very good way to invest, depending on the client or depending on the person. But it's, again, sometimes those core values can really translate into something magical at the end of that.
Well, you might call Dumbo also a kiddie ride, you know, because it's really great for little children. Yep. And not a whole lot of risk there. And my goodness, you know, you don't need to be on the big roller coaster when you're approaching retirement anyway. You know?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, Ron. It's the risk is definitely different for each and every one of us, and I see it again working with most of the people that come on board with our firm are typically in that retirement age range or getting close to it. And so, like you said, typically risk is sometimes taking a backseat, of course, depending on your situation.
I got one more here, and I hesitate to even bring this up because I'm going to put it in your head. But
I already know where you're going with that one.
It's a small world. I mean, that boat ride is, I've been on it one time, but my goodness, once you hear that song, which plays the entire time you're in there, you know, it never goes out of your head. It's always there, and it's like, it's so familiar. I think everybody knows it, right?
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I remember, I'm bringing up a childhood memory here, but I remember this is years ago, and I was probably 7 or 8 years old. Maybe I was 10 years old. And anyway, I remember we went to Disneyland with my family, and I had 2 younger cousins with me, and they were both girls, and I'll never forget. They sang that ride that whole way home. They sang that song, right? And so, like you said, it's funny because you can see it around the park too when you're walking around. People that go on those rides, whether you want it to or not, that kind of gets kind of burned into your brain there. And a lot of the times it follows you, and it can be overwhelming, definitely, but it definitely gets stuck in your head, and it serves the purpose of, I think, what that ride was kind of intended for. But I think when it comes time to financial advice, when you're looking at your financials or economic songs, I would say getting stuck in your head, it can constantly fill your head with either fear. I see a lot of people, depending on what they fill their brain with, it can really have a big impact on what their envisionment is, or what their comfortability is, or what their overall outlook is in their retirement plan. We've talked about this before, Ron, those people that sit there and watch the news all day, and it could be overwhelming with really bad news, right? Yeah. You watch one day of the news and you feel like there's not one good thing happened today, right? But it's something where I feel it's super important to really look into what you're kind of filling your head with. And again, not that every information out there is good, not that every information out there is bad, but when it comes time to making your financial decisions, especially when we're talking about something as important as a retirement plan that's going to last the next 20 or 30 years of your life, it's very important that you need to make sure you're making the final decision with facts, and make sure you have the data behind it, and make sure it's something that you feel comfortable in, of course. But it's super, super important. And I think that's one of the things we kind of pride ourselves on here, Ron, at our firm, is when we're getting a client ready to retire, it's something that there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes into that, especially on our end, by making sure that everything is customized to that specific person, that specific family. We need to look at things like your goals, what your needs are, short-term, long-term. What is your risk tolerance? Tax efficiency. Is there things we could do from a tax efficiency standpoint? Estate planning. All of those need to be kind of put into a plan, as well as all of that is typically wrapped together with an income plan that is built to last and can allow you to spend with confidence and know exactly where your next paychecks are coming from. So, I think that's really where a lot of what our firm does starts with that building block of getting that financial plan started. And it all starts, Ron, we can't do any of that unless you call in for that discovery meeting. So at that discovery meeting, we take a kind of a deep dive into you and your family, and again, cover a lot of those concepts we talked about. And it's a really good time just to see if, for me to sit down with you again over Zoom or in person and see if we're a good fit. I always tell people not every advisor is for every client, not every client's for every advisor. It's very important that you find a good fit, as well as, values and all that stuff kind of come into play, as well as making sure the clients and the advisors see eye to eye on what they envision for retirement. So if you're one of those people out there that's been listening to the show, some of you have been listening for a while and are getting closer to retirement, or maybe had a big financial hurdle come up and are looking for someone to help navigate through this tricky time, and that's exactly what our firm's here for. So reach out. I would love to sit down and spend an hour with you at our discovery meeting and see if we're a good fit to move forward.
Reach out and get in touch with Regary Financial right now. And the number to call to make that happen is 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. You can get one of those discovery meetings that we talk about so much. It's simply a getting to know you session. You can get to know Logan, he can get to know you, and you can move on from there. A very comfortable, non-sales get-together, just kind of a friendly conversation to get to know some of the things that are important to you, and you can get some answers to some of your basic questions and that sort of thing. And all of that is not going to cost you a penny and not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call for Regary Financial. Remember, Regary has 2 convenient offices, Hemet and also Redlands, and you can also get together via Zoom, or maybe it's just a phone call. Whatever the case may be, a discovery meeting can be yours. Just call 888-823-PLAN. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler. We'll have more of the Financial Beat coming up in just a moment.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a plan that has some serious issues. Much better. That's the sound of a plan that was created by someone listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. So which sound is your financial plan making?
Hey, we're back now with more of the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is on the radio. Thanks very much for joining us today. Logan Sadler is the VP, Chief Investment Officer at Brigari Financial, serving you in Southern California. And Logan and the folks at Brigari have terrific partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, all of the folks involved in your financial life, so they can help offer well-rounded guidance in all things financial for their clients. You can get a discovery meeting, no cost whatsoever, and no obligation attached to it. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. Reach out today with that phone call. Set up a time to have a discovery meeting. 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. You know, Logan not only has this show, but also there are podcasts available, and Logan even has his own YouTube channel. Logan, for the folks who might have just joined us recently, tell us about how you can access all that great information.
Yeah, so those of you that have been listening to the show for a while, or maybe this is your first time stopping by and are wanting to catch more of it, you can head over to Podcast, wherever you guys download podcasts. That might be Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, and you can type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and there's over 80 episodes now uploaded and put on there for you to listen to at your convenience. And what I always say, with over 80 episodes on there now, there's probably one of those that might pertain to your situation, or at least give you some extra education and background on what you're going through. As well as we have the YouTube channel. So for those of you that like YouTube and video format, I'll say I do as well. I love a good YouTube video, good visual and good background, and sometimes some good charts. You can head over to our YouTube channel and type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, and we upload videos there weekly on different retirement education and different content we go through on how much you can contribute to your Roth IRA, or how to do a Roth conversion, or how to look at the risk of your portfolio. All of those good types of videos and stuff like that are over there on the YouTube platform. So head over to either one of those or both and click subscribe and follow along.
You know, I've said dozens of times that, I have the perfect face for radio, but that is not the case for Logan Sadler. You can actually see him on his YouTube videos. So yeah. At any rate, you look pretty good there, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
I know that you have met, over the years, and you've gotten to know a lot of people who have certain biases and certain assumptions that they make about the market and about a whole lot of other things. But the European Financial Review recently released a study on the ways that investor biases impact their financial behavior and their financial decisions. How have you seen some of these biases manifest themselves in different people out there, Logan? First of all, a confirmation bias. What do we mean by that, and how have you seen it work with some folks?
I think what I would translate that to, Ron, is I've seen some people that pay more attention to the information that supports their opinion while ignoring if it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
And I think we all could agree with that. That's on sports, it's on financials, politics, religion, wherever you want to go with that, right? You can kind of always find something that backs your side, but you don't want to look at the other side, right? So we've all seen that before, and I've seen it a lot of different ways with financials. You talk about things like annuities, right? Those are something where you hear people all the time say those are really good for you, depending on the situation, and you'll see a lot of people that will tell you that they're really bad for you. Same with structured notes, stocks, mutual funds, heck, even Roth conversions. You'll find conflicting information on all of that stuff, and a lot of the times people just kind of tend to want to read what supports their opinion on that. So I think it's super important to, when you're looking at a financial situation, to look at things with no bias and just make sure you're understanding how it pertains to you and not a million other people.
Now, there's something out there called a loss aversion bias. What is that, Logan?
I would translate that to being oversensitive to risk or to loss, right? Throw someone's maybe grandma in there that's not looking to take any risk, right? They don't want to lose any bit of money, so they bury it under the mattress or in the backyard or whatever it is, because maybe they have a really bad fear of bad outcomes. And I see that a lot of the times. Again, those of you listening to the show know that we work with predominantly people that are approaching retirement or in retirement. So most people are, over 55, I would say. And a lot of the times they're tending to want to maybe scale back risk or maybe even reduce risk. And so it's very hard sometimes to kind of get people to understand that it's very important. Sometimes you have to take some risk, and not that you have to put all your money at risk, but sometimes you might have to take a little bit of risk or controlled risk to understand that that's going to fit your situation situation better in the long term. But of course, it all comes down to finding a portfolio and a plan that fits your risk tolerance and kind of something you're comfortable with, and not necessarily what your neighbor or your friend or your son is in. So I would say that's what I'd translate that into.
Another one I have here to ask about is a disposition effect bias. What in the world does that mean, Logan, first of all?
Yeah, I would say labeling certain investments as winners or losers, or refusing to change your mind, right? So this could be holding maybe a specific investments that have done that you refuse to invest in, or refuse to get some extra insight in, or even refuse to maybe think that they should be investing in that. And again, I could label a lot of things in that area. You know, I have some of our clients that are kind of stuck in their ways where maybe they don't want to look at annuities, right? Maybe they're saying, hey, I need some cash flow, or I need some safety, but I don't want an annuity, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that might fit what you're looking for, as well as I have some clients that are kind of stuck in their ways with mutual funds. When I tell them a lot of the times, depending on risk and goals and what funds we're talking about, you know, ETFs might be a better, exchange traded funds might be a better, lower cost option for you and give you similar exposure to what you're used to. Same with things like, universal life insurance can be a fit for some people. There's a lot of those types of things that you could kind of look into to fit that. So I think it's just super important to not say no to anything, and make sure you're kind of looking at all of those types of concepts with an open mind.
Yeah, and keep your options open. So
keep your options open. There's a lot out there.
888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan, a one-on-one conversation with Logan about your situation. 888-823-PLAN. That number is for Rigari Financial. We're talking about various biases that are out there with investors. And Logan, I think I might be able to figure out what this one means, but explain what a hindsight bias is.
Yeah, we've all heard this person, right? And
hindsight is 20/20, right?
Hindsight's 20/20, and I say you might even heard of this person. It might even be you listening to the show right now, right? But we've all been kind of guilty of this, and that's believing after the fact that you kind of probably could have predicted a past event that might have seemed obvious, but in reality that probably couldn't have been farther from the truth, right? Like this last market crash, right? We've all heard people say, man, I knew the market was going to tank during COVID. I should have done this, right? Or I knew that after this election, the market was going to tank. I should have done this. Or, I knew that when the war was happening, the market was going to boom. I should have been more aggressive. None of us can really predict those types of events. And even if we could, we probably wouldn't have even predicted them as correctly as we would have wanted to, right? So you could always look back and say we could have done things differently, or I should have done this or that. The problem is with investing, we just don't know. So it's very important to understand that events can happen to cause big market drops or big market rises, depending on what types of events we're talking about. And I think it's super important to make sure that you're working with an advisor that can help control those emotions, and make sure you're investing in, and make sure you have an investment plan that fits what you're trying to do and fits your risk tolerance, so that way we don't get caught in those areas of trying to time the market or reflecting back.
Okay, here's one I want to ask you about, because I truly don't really understand this one. Self-attribution bias. I guess that's attributing things in an incorrect way. How would you explain it?
Yeah, I would say that's, like you said, attributing successful outcomes to your own actions and bad outcomes to the external factors, right? So you only want to take, I think what I would say is you only want to take it, you only want to pat yourself on the back when things are good, but not when things are bad, right?
I gotcha.
I think we're all guilty of that, right? I mean, come on. But no, let's think about when your 401k is doing great. That's because I'm a good investor. I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
When the 401k is down, well, it's a bad market. What do you want me to do? So I think it's one of those things where we've all found ourselves in that situation, and it's important to take full credit. That's what I always tell people. When you're coming on board with our firm, a lot of us will be invested in a lot of different products or services or tools and all those types of things. And some years I'm going to be, some years things will be really good. Some years it won't be so good. But the whole point about it is taking full advantage of those situations over a long period of time, and understanding that, you're not always the winner and you're not always the loser. You got to take it on the chin, right? But it's something where that's what I would kind of throw that category into.
Okay, I got just one more here, and we'll be off this topic. And this topic is kind of interesting because, as I said before, I'm kind of learning a lot from you here, and I would imagine a lot of listeners are too. How about a trend-chasing bias? What is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've all seen that, right? Especially these last few years. We've seen people that are chasing these historical returns. Chasing performance is a mistake, right? Because their belief is that historical returns predict future performance. But as we all know, anybody that's ever met with a broker, an advisor, an insurance agent, what is it they all tell you, or they're supposed to tell you, right? Is past results don't guarantee future returns, right? So, and that's something a lot of people forget, especially when they're trend chasing. I think of things like cryptocurrency, the meme stocks we were going through, like the AMC, GameStop, a lot of the marijuana industry that was really big a few years ago. Yeah. It's something where you see a lot of these people that are saying, man, I saw on the news, or I read an article, this is up 4,000%. I'm going to go ahead and get in so I can get the next 4,000%, right? And what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of the times that might be the top of that market, or it might still have a ways to go. It's just something where you'll never be able to kind of fully predict that. But I feel, Ron, it's so important to make sure that you're not getting caught in just trying to chase these returns or chase these types of trends, because investing, it seems like it's very, very trendy nowadays with certain types of investments. And it's so, so important to stay true to your roots and make sure you're investing in things that fit your risk tolerance and your goals.
Yeah, and if your brother-in-law gives you a hot stock tip, I mean, it's important to remember that it's probably already too late to take advantage of that,
Oh, yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. It's already over with.
Hey,
if you've seen it on the news, it's already done.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of other people know about it, too. So if you would like to have a conversation with Logan, I'm going to give you the number in just a second. But Logan, in today's economic climate, in what we're going through right now and toward the end of the year and everything else, why is it so important for folks to reach out to you now?
Yeah, I know from experience, there's a lot of people out there right now that are listening to the show, and they're maybe getting concerned about what their retirement might look like. And a lot of people out there are getting very close to retirement. They're retiring next year, this year, or in 5 years. And there is, in my opinion, there's never been a more exciting time to get a financial plan put together and to get a retirement plan put together, because there's a lot of exciting things going on, but there's also a lot of concerning things going on. So I feel now more than ever, it's super important to have that comprehensive plan that you feel comfortable in, and you have an idea of what your retirement's going to look like in 2 years or 5 years, right, when you get ready to pull the plug, as well as how sustainable is my retirement over the next 20 or 30 years of my retirement plan. So that's what we're here to provide. We provide that peace of mind and making sure that we're doing our due diligence and really taking care of what is it the client is looking for out of their plan and customizing it to them. So if you're one of those people out there, I think it's definitely time you give us a call and come in for that discovery meeting.
And that number to call is 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. That number is for Regary Financial. 2 convenient offices, one in Hammett, one in Redlands. And there are folks all over Southern California who depend on Regary Financial to help them get to and through retirement. Logan Sadler has worked with 3 different generations of client families. And, of course, Logan is the same guy you hear on the radio here, on the podcast, on YouTube. I mean, he's everywhere, folks. And you can certainly benefit from a conversation with Logan, kind of get to know him. We call it a discovery meeting. You can get to know things about him. He can get to know things about you and give you more specific advice about things. But you don't have to have any kind of obligation attached to this at all. You can have a conversation that won't cost you a penny and won't obligate you to do anything beyond that. No strings attached, in other words. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make all that happen. That's 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz. He's Logan Sadler. We'll be right back with more in a moment.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
As they say, the beat goes on. The Financial Beat we're talking about here. Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial, serving you wherever you are in Southern California. This radio show is all about getting you to and through retirement. And, of course, Logan's been doing it for a while, and you may have been following us for a long time, or maybe you're joining us today for the very first time. If so, very important phone number for you. It's 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Call that that number today, and you can arrange to have a discovery meeting. What is that? Well, that's a simple get-together, getting to know you session with Logan Sadler. It can be on the phone or via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices, Redlands or Hemet. But at any rate, you can have this conversation, and it's not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any kind of obligation. No strings attached, in other words. 888-823-PLAN. Hey, got a fun fact of the week here for you, Logan. I know you're into history and all that sort of thing, but back during the Great Depression, before we were around, a businessman from Quincy, Florida, convinced struggling families in the small town of Quincy, Florida, to buy shares of Coca-Cola. Quincy later became the single richest town per capita in the United States, with nearly 100 people becoming millionaires from Coca-Cola, which, as we all know, is a huge success and has been so for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's a good feel-good story there where, hey, put some money here or there and invest in this, and it might work out, right? It seems like it definitely did in their case. And, yeah, it's funny when I think back on big companies like, like Nike or Coca-Cola or Apple or any of these things that are just kind of been a staple for a very long time.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to me that, at the beginning of those companies, it wasn't so promising, right? There wasn't like every billboard around or every sports team was going to have a Coca-Cola poster at the time, right? So it's it's very cool that people believe in whatever company it is and are able to put some money away into it or invest into it and it ends up working out. It's always great to see.
And, of course, that was during a dark time in our history.
Yeah.
During the Depression, I mean, my goodness, a lot of people didn't have the money to invest in something like that.
Well, it is funny when you put it in that perspective, right? I mean, it's scary for most people to invest in any type of startup company or newer company when times are good, like you said, though, let alone when we're at, a historically bad point. It definitely was a bold move that worked out.
Yeah. Hey, this is the holiday season, of course. I consider the holiday season, starting in with Thanksgiving, and then you got all these people playing Christmas music out here, since Halloween, basically. But that drives me crazy. But hey, let's make a list of naughty and nice.
Okay.
Santa Claus is always making a list and checking it twice. And I will describe a scenario to you, and you tell us, Logan, if the financial advisor is being naughty or nice. A client usually meets with his advisor once a year, every November. But this particular year, the client retired in May and wanted to meet then to make sure everything was in order for his retirement to start. Now, at the beginning of the meeting, the advisor said, "This can count as our meeting for the year." Is this advisor being naughty or nice?
Yeah, great question here. And I'll always say this. One of the least favorite part about my job, I would say, is typically having to critique or go against what other advisors are doing. Because, again, everyone's kind of so different. But
Yeah.
To answer that question directly, in this case, I would say it really depends on what the business model is of that advisor or what type of service agreement you have drawn up with a client. Because, again, every advisor or client relationship could be different. Now, with that said, Ron, in my opinion, based off our business model, I would say that would be naughty. Because what I mean by that is, obviously, I agree with the meetings at least once a year if you can, or sometimes more. And I would say in this particular case, when a client is getting ready to retire in May, that's very, very early on in the year, right? So there's still a lot of things going on throughout the year. And I would say we typically like to do what we call a checkup meeting with our clients that are typically just getting ready to retire or maybe just retired. I think it's important to have maybe another meeting or two that year. And again, they don't have to be extensive meetings or very long, but they got to at least happen. And because there's a lot of things you got to check up on. How are you adjusting, right? How is life after retirement? Financially, how is income going? Is it enough to meet up with what you were expecting? Do you need more? Do you need less? A lot of those types of conversations would come up in that meeting in that same year. A lot of the times when the client retires. So I would say, based off our business model and kind of how we like to conduct ourselves and our relationships with our clients, I would say it's probably naughty because I would like a little bit more check in with the client.
I can definitely see that. I mean, it's all what's best for the client, after all. Here's another scenario for you, Logan. A 40-year-old client leaves a voicemail with her advisor to say that she wants to be invested more conservatively in her IRA because she's worried about the market's performance for the coming year. Her advisor emails within an hour and says that changes have been made accordingly. Is this advisor being naughty or nice?
Yeah, that's a great one too. These are great topics to talk about. So I actually had this happen several times, and I would say I would, in my opinion, and again, it depends on what type of a relationship you have with the advisor, what their compliance is, and how they kind of take trade instructions. In my experience, personally, I would say that's naughty. I typically like to have a little bit further of a conversation. There needs to be a deeper conversation there about why are we moving more conservatively? What is our thought process behind that? What is the pros of that? What are the cons of that? And just a little bit more deeper of a dive. And again, it might be a 10 or 15 minute phone call real quick, but to me, there's a little bit more conversation that needs to be had there instead of just making changes. Because I always tell people, as an advisor, I'm here to, yes, make trades, yes, manage portfolios, but at the end of the day, I'm also here to give you advice. And so it's hard to give advice over just an email transaction where I said, yep, okay, no problem, it's done. But no, we need to have a little bit deeper of a conversation and say, hey, here's our goals, here's what we were trying to do, what has changed. And again, not saying that we don't need to get more conservative or that we won't do it, because again, that happens all the time where we'll make those changes. But I think having a little bit more deeper of a conversation to make sure we're making those changes for the right reason, and again, to make sure it's lining up with what our goals are.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, and I think it does deserve a conversation, not just an email,
Yeah, a lot could be done over email, but I think big decisions like that, because it's a big decision. It may seem simple to a lot of people, just moving more conservative, more aggressive, but to me, there's a little bit more of a deeper conversation that needs to be had just to make sure.
Yeah, and I know it's very important to you to have folks understand, why these moves are being made and this sort of thing. So, certainly on board with you on that. Here's another scenario. After boarding a flight for vacation, a client realizes that he forgot to transfer money to his checking account to cover travel expenses. He emails his financial advisor from the plane asking for money to be wired from his brokerage account to a specific checking account. The advisor replies that he doesn't want to process that transaction without verbal confirmation from the client on the phone, but the client can't call from the plane, and the client insists he needs the money wired that same day and says that it's his money, but the advisor won't comply. Is the advisor in this case naughty or nice?
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I'd like to kind of, before I even give my answer, I'd kind of like to expand on that and take a little bit deeper of a dive there, because number one, there's a lot of different compliance measures that go into that. So sometimes, for those of you listening, your advisor might have different compliance requirements saying that he's allowed to take requests via email or he's not allowed. It has to be verbal. And again, that's all just dependent on what their compliance department, what their procedures are. Now, I'll say personally, it really also depends as well on, after compliance, it also depends on your relationship. So I have some clients that always email me for confirmation for move monies or cash withdrawals or adding money, and it's very, very consistent. If this was a client that didn't ever really do that and then all of a sudden was emailing me to take large with sums and they need the money right now, I would probably wait for verbal confirmation, because it's something where you got to make sure you're protecting the client's assets as well. Because that very easily could have been a spam email, right? It could have very easily been someone being hacked. So I think a lot of that is part of our jobs as the advisor as well, is to look at client safety of information and all that stuff. So, that's a very tricky one to go on and off of there. I could see both sides of it, where the client said, hey, look, it's my money, I need it now, like the commercial. I would totally understand that, as well as I get the advisor side. You got to make sure, depending on the situation, that you're protecting the client and making sure it's not some type of fraud or something like that.
As a fiduciary, you're always looking out for the client's best interests, and the one thing that you just mentioned really flicked a light on in my head, and that is the fact that there's so much hacking going on with emails and so much computer fraud out there, and someone could very easily have hacked into this particular email account, and then they're telling you to transfer money into this particular account that they have set up, the client doesn't even know about it.
Well, I had a client that's been with us for a long time, and he's never really taken withdrawals. He's just kind of added to the accounts throughout the years, and he's not at a point where he's going to need the money. And long story short, he actually emailed me a few weeks ago and was like, hey, I need to take a withdrawal of around $30,000. Something came up, and I said, yeah, okay. I said, not a problem. And I emailed him back, and I said, but do you have 5 minutes real quick? He said, absolutely. So I gave him a call, and I said, hey, I just wanted to confirm it to you because you never had done that before. And he was actually like, you know what? I really appreciate that. That's actually really good to know that I never thought about somebody, doing that to hack in or something like that. So he actually was very appreciative of it. Again, it took 2 or 3 minutes of his time real quick just to confirm, and we were good to go. So I think that extra measure of safety in today's world is really important.
It happens. A lot of dishonesty out there these days.
Yes.
888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler. And another scenario here for you in our naughty or nice conversation. A prospective client asked for a few testimonials from existing clients before signing on with a new advisor. Now, the advisor happily provides testimonials from 3 different clients, attesting to their satisfaction with his services. In this case, Logan, is the advisor being naughty or nice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, just depending on compliance requirements, sometimes you're allowed to give testimonials, sometimes you're not. I think that those are typically a nice thing. I think what I like to do typically is we have a list of, between 5 to 10 clients that we'll have. And of course, their clients have already authorized us to give their name out. So if a client's coming on board with us and they're saying, hey, Logan, you know what? We went through your process. We did the discovery meeting. We did the other 2 meetings where we went over the proposal and the investment strategies and the plan. And just before we move forward, I'd like to double check and make sure everything, make sure some of the people that you've worked with and what you're saying is going to hold up type thing. So we have a list of about 10 clients that they can call. And again, all of them are pre-approved where they've already gave their authorization, and the clients can call them and ask them about us and about, not necessarily what investments they're in, but they just ask them, hey, are they good people? Do they do what they're going to say they're going to do? I think a lot of that is actually very important. You'd be surprised. I have very few clients ask for that are coming on board. I think I maybe only had, maybe let's say 5 clients of all of last year that asked for that, but it's always something that we have available to provide for clients just because we get it. It's a world of that, of making sure that you could, cross your T's, dot your I's, and making sure you're doing your due diligence as far as the client aspect. But I don't think that's anything naughty. I would just say make sure it's not like make sure you're not calling their brother or their sister or something like that, right? You want to make sure you're actually calling clients and have been there a while. And I know on our list, I try, me and our team, we try to sprinkle in clients that have been with us more than 10 years and clients that have only been with us 1 year. Mm-hmm. So that way it's kind of like, some newer clients, some older clients to kind of give people a little insight on what we do and how we do it, and making sure that, again, that we're kind of somebody that people can trust and someone that can live up to the word. But I think, it's something that is very, very important to look at. And I think that's something we definitely think is very important.
Okay, one more question here in regards to being naughty or nice. Let's say an advisor and a new client enter into an agreement where the advisor doesn't charge any fees on the initial balance of the account. Instead, he only charges fees on the earnings of the account, and explains that this way he only makes money when the account earns money for the client. Is this advisor being naughty or nice?
Yeah. My opinion on this, again, there's those of you that listen to the show for a while, I think on several shows, Ron, we broke down different ways that, advisors charge fees and how they could work, or how advisors get paid, or how insurance agents get paid. And at the end of the day, people are getting paid, right? They're doing a job, which I think we're all okay with. But I think it's very important to be transparent on how you're getting paid. And in my experience, I would say that would probably be, I don't necessarily like that fee model. Again, not that it's wrong for everybody, but I would say that's probably naughty. I don't like that because it's not as cut and clear as far as what the fees will be. And I've seen it from experience where sometimes advisors are chasing higher returns and maybe taking more risk than a client is comfortable with, just because obviously their fees are based off of that, right? So it's something where I've seen that happen. So I don't typically like that fee model. I think I like the where a client pays either a flat fee or an asset under management fee, meaning like a flat percentage of like 1% or 2% or whatever type of advisory relationship you have. I typically like those models a little bit better. I just think they're a lot more clear and easier to explain to the client, and they understand exactly what the fees will be and have an idea of how that will change or not change over the years. I just think that's more simplistic and a little bit more upfront with clients and I think it allows you to do your job as a fiduciary to really put the client's best interest at heart and not get caught trying to chase returns or maybe going too far the other way outside of the risk tolerance. So, those are really great points we went through, and a lot of that is stuff out there that some of you guys are dealing with or maybe have gone through. And if you're one of those people out there that maybe currently has an advisor and you've kind of just been wondering if you're currently in the right situation, I think it's a great time where you reach out for that discovery meeting. At that discovery meeting, we actually, it doesn't cost anything, no obligation. We just really kind of sit down either via Zoom or in person. They typically take about an hour, and we'll take a deep dive into what situation you're going through as far as, are you getting ready to retire? Are you close to retirement? Are you in retirement? And we really kind of dig through everything and really take a deep dive into what it is you're trying to accomplish and making sure that you have a custom fit plan and an advisor that you know what your service model looks like, how often you're going to hear from us, and all of that and more inside of our financial plans. But again, it all starts with that discovery meeting. So again, if you're one of those clients out there that are looking for an opportunity to maybe come on board with our firm, give us a call and love to sit down and spend an hour with you and see if we're a good fit.
Maybe you've been thinking about making this call for a long time. Why not go ahead and do it today? 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. That number is for Gary Financial, and Logan Sadler is the guy that you can arrange to have a conversation with. He's not going to push you off on anybody else. Same guy you hear on the show here. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. Call right now and leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back at very first opportunity, and then you can arrange a convenient time to have that discovery meeting, either via phone or Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices in Hemet or Redlands. Wherever you are in Southern California, there are folks who count on Logan Sadler to help them get to and through retirement. Folks not only in California, but really all over the country. And folks count on Logan for advice, and also it's a partnership. It's a relationship that you build over the years. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. Ron Stutz here along with the inimitable Logan Sadler. We'll be back with more in just a moment. You're listening to The Financial Beat.
We talk a lot about creating a better 401k, but are we actually taking steps to do so? Maybe it's time to stop talking the talk and start walking the walk. By texting the word advice to 21,000, Logan Sadler can provide you with his 401k action steps, a guide that provides you with powerful information that could potentially save you thousands in taxes and fees and put you one step ahead when it comes to your retirement. So text the word advice to the number 21,000 today. For this special report, text the word advice to the number 21,000.
What is your name?
I am Arthur, King of the Britons.
What is your quest?
To get retirement ready.
What is the PE ratio on your portfolio's top grossing products?
I don't know that.
Don't get blown to bits by complex jargon. Let Logan help you over the bridge to a meaningful retirement.
And the beat goes on. The Financial Beat we're talking about here. Logan Sadler is on the radio. Logan is the VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. Offices in Hemet and Redlands. And, of course, we appreciate your listening today, deciding to spend a little time with us. A discovery meeting can be yours, no cost and no obligation. Logan Sadler, the same guy you hear on the show, will be glad to sit down and talk with you, whether it be on the phone or maybe via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the convenient offices. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. 888-823-PLAN. Again, you're listening to The Financial Beat. We appreciate your being here. Let's go to the mailbag. We have great questions as always. First one is from Riverside, and Dawn has a question. Dawn says, Logan, I'm 60 years old, and I've just been given two options at work. I can keep working and retire in 5 or 6 years with the pension, or I can retire now and take a severance package and a pension buyout. How do I weigh my options here?
Yeah, first off, thanks for writing in, Don, but that's a that's a tough question there, and it's something where I've actually helped people through this several different times, and you'll be amazed how it works out several different ways, right? I've had some clients that I've told, hey, based off what they're offering you, with your buyout and how your pension's calculated and what you have saved and what you make, you actually would be about even if you took this payout and did it right now, and you get to retire a couple years earlier. Or sometimes it's been, hey, you'll be a little bit less, but that's 5 years less of work. So it makes sense to do it. And I've seen sometimes where I tell people, hey, you know what they're offering you based off what you have and what you're going to have saved with 401ks and all of that put away, pension increases, as well as Social Security and all that going up. And then you look at things like healthcare. It might make sense to work a few more years, so it's something where we help people with that all the time. And I'd be happy, Don, if you wanted to come into the office or go through our discovery meeting process where we could actually look at the numbers on this, because that is a great question where we have to calculate a lot of different things that our team will help you do and make sure it's in your best interest. Because again, there's some cases where this would work out and it makes sense to pull the plug and retire. And I've seen it a couple other ways too, where it just doesn't make sense. The money is not there. And if it is, you're going to be taking a significant pay cut. And we just want to make sure we lay out all those options for you, because there's a lot to go into it. So hopefully I gave you kind of a good idea of what our thought process would be and what we'd be looking at, because there's really a lot to unpack in that question, because that's a great question.
And the answer to that question is all about the numbers. And, I know that Logan is fond of saying, take a deep dive. Needs to take a deep dive into those numbers and crunch them for you and figure out the best solution. So it's up to you to make that phone call, 888-823-PLAN. Dawn, again, thank you for the question. One more question today. It's from Tim in Moreno Valley. And Tim says, we're currently building our dream home and will be moving in within the next 12 to 18 months. My question is whether or not to sell our current house after we move out and invest the cash or keep it as a rental property for retirement income.
Gotcha. Yeah, Tim, that's a great question. Congratulations, though, on building your dream house there. It's always exciting. One of the things I would unpack in there is a lot of different ways this question could go, just depending on what type of situation you're in and what type of comfortability you have. But what I would say is, let's ask the question, are we okay with being a landlord? There's a lot of people, I tell people all the time, typically in retirement or getting close to retirement is not when people decide to become a landlord, right? A lot of the times, our clients that are landlords are typically selling real estate or downsizing to some extent as they get older, because they just don't want to have that job anymore. So that's one of the first things I would ask, you and your wife is basically, are you comfortable with being a landlord? Is that something you want to do? And then the other question is, how long do you want to do it for? Because I've seen sometimes where some clients say, all right, I'm going to rent my house out for 3 or 4 years, and then what I'm going to do is then I'll sell it down the road. What a lot of people don't realize is it's no longer your primary residence after a certain amount of years, depending on what states and stuff you're in. So it's important to kind of look at the tax advantages of selling a primary home versus a vacation or rental property. So those are one of the calculations we help get you with our CPA, or if you have a CPA, we can work with them and see kind of what that would look like. But it's super important, I'd say, to ask those two questions. And then what would the income be, right? If you're going to get some income from it, would it be very attractive for what the headache might potentially be of the rental, or would it make more sense to invest that money somewhere else into some type of market portfolio or annuities or whatever types of investments that fit your risk tolerance? Those would be kind of those questions to unpack. But it sounds like you definitely got some options on the table there, and we could help walk you through that and guide you into that transition there. But first off, again, congratulations on the dream home.
Yeah, call Logan's office and arrange to have a conversation. And again, you can talk about those numbers, but gosh, some good opportunities there. You want to make sure you take advantage of them. And Logan, I hate to say this. I'm sorry to say it at the end of every show, but we've come near the end of our show here. And I just wanted to say I've certainly enjoyed it today and learned a lot as well. But why is it so important for the folks out there who are listening to the show, maybe for the first time, to give your office a call?
Yeah, it's something where I always say we try to separate ourselves from a lot of the other advisors out there, other competition, I guess you could say. And we really are we're a small family shop that has, in our opinion, made a big impact on lots of people's lives and helped transition them into retirement. And as you always say, Ron, we work with several different generations here at Regary Financial. Our firm's been around for a long time. We have a lot of experience, and we really do help get a lot more in the weeds than most people would, I would say. And we help actually build you out a financial plan. And a lot of people out there, I think that's what people are looking for nowadays. They're looking for things that can show them, hey, if I made this decision, what would the impact be? Or if I saved a little bit more money, what would that impact be? If I took more income and maybe retired a year earlier, how would that look? And so we actually like to lead with the financial plan, and then any types of products or investments and all that stuff does come secondary, because we're leading with the financial planning and knowing that you got an advisor and a firm behind you that's making decisions based off what your goals and what your needs are and putting you first, which in our opinion is how it should be. So if you're one of those people out there, again, maybe it's the first time, or maybe you've been listening to the show for months and it's time to make that call. And again, we do Zoom meetings all the time. We do phone calls, or we even do in-person visits. So if you're one of those people listening to the show out there, or maybe listen to the podcast, it's time to go ahead and make that call and come in. I'd love to spend an hour with you and see if our firm's a good fit for you.
888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. That is your number to call to make that happen. You can have a phone call with Logan, or maybe a Zoom connection. Sometimes it's really good. A lot of folks do that. But some folks just want to come into one of the convenient offices, and that's cool too. Still not going to cost you anything at all, and not going to obligate you to do anything at all to have that Zoom connection, or whatever the case may be. The discovery meeting. You discover things, Logan discovers things, and it works out that way. And it's all free. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. Take a deep dive into your situation. Get a financial roadmap, if you will, to find out how you can get to and through retirement. 888-823-PLAN. Logan, it's been my pleasure to be with you again today, and I know you're going to get a lot of phone calls from our listeners today.
Well, I look forward to it. It's always great meeting and talking with those of you that listen to the show, and appreciate all your feedback. And I'm already excited about next week, so I look forward to it. And the rest of you guys out there driving around or wherever it is you're listening to the show, hopefully you have a great week, and look forward to, again, being back here next week with another show.
We hope you will join us for the next edition of the Financial Beat with the one and only Logan Sadler.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for anyone. All information discussed is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of BD Financial Group and do not necessarily represent the views of AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory and financial planning services are offered through AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. AlphaStar and BD Financial Group are independent entities. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability.